everyone, I'm Kendall.
And I'm Lex.
And this is All Your Heart, Soul, and Strength. Here at this YouTube channel, our main goal is to speak God's truth and show how it applies to every area of your life.
If you're new here, welcome, or if you're a returning watcher, thank you so much for your support. Please like and subscribe, and if you were moved by this message and you feel like it could benefit others, go ahead and share it.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode.
Hey everyone, welcome back to All Your Heart, Soul, and Strength. This is our 9th episode, and this is another financial episode where Kendall is just going to get to thrive and live his best life over there. I'm going to chime in when I can, but we're going to be going over the difference between refinancing your home and recasting. So it's going to be all about mortgage. If you're a homeowner, this is something that you could find really helpful. I know that just up until we have, I guess you could say, participated in these things recently, I had no idea what they were. We talk a lot about it with our friends. They also have no idea what it is. So we think that this could help a lot of people.
Going off that, the experience I had with it is when I realized it could be good for people to really learn what it was is when we were going to recast our mortgage, I went to the bank and I had to transfer the money amount that was needed for this recasting. I had to get it from my bank sent over to the mortgage company. And the woman there who was helping me do this used to be a mortgage officer, and she didn't even know what a recast was, and she used to deal with mortgages. So then when I realized that the person who did mortgages didn't even really
the mortgager
hadn't even heard of this, it'd be nice info just to have people to know. So
yeah, especially someone so important and plays like such a vital role in people in their home purchasing and buying overall experience to not know what it is. Probably your common homeowner doesn't have any clue of what it is.
Yeah, because I didn't really know what it was either, and I somehow stumbled upon it. So
I still don't know what it is. No, I'm just kidding.
So we'll go through just kind of how it is right now with the housing market. We know it's difficult for everybody right now to be a first-time homeowner, more now than it has been in forever.
Hopefully after the next year that won't be a problem anymore. But
for real, I think yes, house prices have increased, and that's a big issue. But housing will always appreciate, and that's what makes it such a good investment.
Yeah.
So pricing will always, it won't see this rapid of a raise that it has the past 4 years, but it will always go up. And so I think the biggest issue really that's stressing a lot of Americans is just inflation in general. Living life in general, having to pay for other things is not allowing them to be able to afford a mortgage for a house. I mean, that's just one of the many things, but I do think that's a big, thing because everything's just more expensive now.
Yeah. And so wonder who there is to blame for that.
Yeah. Hopefully this changes the next few years because it really is sad to see kind of where this is going.
It is very sad. It's very sad for people to be making the most money that they've ever made, probably in their entire life, and feel the brokest they ever have.
Yeah.
Also within their
Especially
life.
if they're people who are doing things right, like budgeting and all these other things where they still can't seem to be able to afford. Because groceries alone have more than doubled. It's crazy.
And what's sad is owning a home should not be a privilege. I mean, everyone needs a home. And especially if you are blessed, I'm going to say blessed enough to have a home, especially in the world that we live in today. Yeah. It's very important that you just know your options because a lot of the options are not laid out on the table up front.
For sure.
And we're here to help you.
Yeah, and so these two things we'll talk about today will help people who might not know about these things to realize when you do buy a home, you're not locked into the mortgage price for forever. There's ways to modify it down the road. So going off of that, a good stat I found here, according to Bankrate's Financial Security Survey in 2023, 74% of U.S. adults consider home ownership an important part of the American dream. And that's ahead of having children, which was at 42%, and a successful career, which was at 61%. So you're saying, this is 2/3 of people, the American dream is, oh yeah, you want to own a home. And, the other things obviously come with that, you have a family and whatnot. But it just shows you, that's ingrained in people. And what we want to really get to in this episode is to say that any of these things, you want to make sure you're in a place to buy a home first off. You want to be able to you want to make sure that you're able to afford the mortgage, but just know that you're not locked in at it for forever. A good rule of thumb a lot of financial people use is you don't want your mortgage to be more than 25% of your monthly income. So whatever your budget sheet shows of whatever amount you get each month, you don't want your housing to be more than 25%. And we're seeing people who are having to do like 35%. When you get to that area, it's just mathematically it's hard to have.
Your house just becomes a burden.
Yeah. You don't want to be house broke, like you said, and you don't want to. You want a house to be a blessing, not a burden, because it can quickly turn to a burden whenever these certain things are, over you. So.
Okay, so we've been talking. We've said it a few times: refinancing, and recasting. So what is the definition? What are we actually talking about? So refinancing, or refi for short, is the process of replacing an existing loan with a new loan that has different terms. The new loan can have better interest rates, shorter or longer payment terms, or money to use for debt consolidation or home improvements.
Which is kind of like a HELOC, if you've heard of that, home equity line of credit. It's kind of what it's referring to in a different way.
Yeah, so we'll go into it in just a second, but refinancing, for the reason that we used it, is we refied to get a smaller interest rate.
All right, so next we have recasting, to give a quick definition. It's also known as a reamortization, and what that means is a reamortization is just a redo of your projected payments. It redoes your interest and your principal payments, and so it's redoing that. It's a way to prepay a mortgage by making a lump sum payment toward the loan's principal balance. The lender then recalculates the monthly payment based on the new lower balance while keeping the same interest rate and the same loan term you had. So this means it keeps the same end date of your original loan. Mm-hmm. This can result in a lower monthly payment and potentially save money or interest over the life of the loan, depending on how you do that. And we're going to dive into different ways on what the pros and cons. We're going to go over those in both of these.
So like a quick example of recasting, is this right? Like, let's say your home was $500,000. You now have $300,000 left to pay. You can recast your mortgage on that $300,000 versus your $500,000.
Correct.
But it gives you the same end date.
Yeah, your end date never changes. So say you weren't paying a lot more to try to shorten that mortgage. Mm-hmm. People will pay more toward the principal to shorten the life of the loan. When you're doing that, you could do that as well. But then when you do recast, it pumps that back to where your end date was always going to be.
Yeah.
So, because they don't know you're paying more. The way it's doing is like it's always going to go off that end date. So you would lose your sooner payoff unless you continue to pay more each month.
Yeah.
But it'll lower your payment monthly. So
I'm learning.
Yeah. So even if it's, say you haven't been paying extra and you've just gotten 10 years down in the loan, you want to re-amortize off that new balance you owe, right. And it'll lower your amount because the interest rate is being applied to that new balance. You got 3% being applied to $200,000 versus $500,000, so it's going to be a smaller number of interest. So,
but the Lord paid it all.
Yes, He did. Provider, my provider.
My debt is paid.
I pay my bills. My bills are paid.
I pay my bills. My bills are paid.
The Lord paid it all. Yes.
So going a little bit into refinancing, setting recasting aside for right now. So we actually walked through refinancing with our rental property. If I'm not mistaken, we were still living in that house when we refinanced, right? Mm-hmm. So our interest rate, the reason why we refinanced is because we believe that we could get a lower interest rate. We were sitting at like a 4.5,
like that, yeah.
And we got to what, like a 3 flat?
Rates were dropping like crazy during that time.
Yeah. What year was that? Was that 2020? 2021?
2021, I think, is when we did it.
Yeah. It was kind of like right after COVID. It's like you tried to sell your house, and before you put the for sale sign, like your house was gone.
Because we were married when we did it. So, yeah, it'd be probably about 2021.
Yeah, so in 2021, again, we were sitting at a 4.5. Mm-hmm. We got all the way down to 3, which typically, if you can get it down a percentage to 1.5%, or of course, even more, it's gonna be worth it, and it's gonna be worth the little bit of the headache that it was. But again, so it lowered our interest rate for forever, which in return obviously lowered our monthly mortgage.
Yeah, your payment on that. So I'm just going to touch on some pros and cons. I mean, Lex already pretty much touched on the good. The main pro is you could lower. There's a few different things you can do with a refi. The most known one is you're lowering your interest rate. It's if you're not locked into that interest rate. I know a lot of people right now are trying to wait for interest rates to go down. But the thing is, just to make people understand is, as much as you want to try to, wait when it's a good time, it's the good time is now, because housing prices aren't going to decrease. Interest rates could, but say they if they do, you can always refi down the road. So you're not stuck in that, that interest rate. You will be able to change it. We'll go over the cons of it. It does cost a good bit of money to do it, but just to know that you're not just stuck at that number. So if you are financially ready to buy a home soon, don't be waiting on the interest rate to drop. It's never, you can't really plan. They are dropping now, which is great, and so it's becoming a better time to buy. But we probably realistically won't see 3% ones again in our lifetime. I mean, we kind of don't want to in a way, because it really, people benefit from it, but it also caused a lot of harm is for them being that low. The other side of what you would do with a refi, which is kind of uncommon, is you can change your loan terms. So most people get a 30-year fixed loan. Mm-hmm. You could change to a 15-year. So that'd be the common one you'd see if someone said, okay, I want to half my loan and pay more and do a 15. You could also do 15 to 30, which is not ideal, because that means you're kind of going backwards from what you were currently doing. But there is that ability.
Hey, you got to get it done.
There's that ability that, hey, you had 15 and you just think you need a little more breathing room on the mortgage. You can spread it out to 30 and say, like, okay, 15 was maybe a little too much.
Yeah, and life happens. People have kids. I mean, if you got twins on the way, if you can up it from 15 to 30, then
because you can change it to 30 and then always pay more to the principal and make it a 15.
Yeah.
Or a 17 or a 20. You can make it whatever year you want by paying more. So I always advise it's just good to go ahead and get a 30, just because you can pay more to make it a 15 if you wanted. You have the option. That way you wouldn't have to go through a refi to do something like that. There really isn't too many cons for refinancing.
Besides it being a little expensive.
Yeah, that's what I was going to get. The only con is it can cost you what's known as closing costs. If people who's bought a home before, this, you pay a closing cost. And the closing cost isn't for the actual home; it's for the loan. You're basically paying that amount to the mortgage company to make the loan and to close the closing costs for that loan. So when you do refinance, it will cost you more than a recast would. It'll usually cost you 2 to 5% of what the new loan is. Okay, so for example, in that, say you had a $200,000 loan, this would be a roughly $4,000 to $10,000 chunk of money for the closing costs. But the way you see if this is worth it, if you want to be sure you're going to be in the home for a few years,
or at least have it,
or rent, or have it like we for a rental. Because say you refinanced and you saved, you paid $5,000 refinanced, and in 2 years you moved, and the interest you saved from the percent change only saved you $3,000.
No.
You didn't save enough to warrant making the refi because you sold the home and you don't have the loan anyway. So it's $2,000, but still the way you look at it, okay, is it going to be worth it? If it's a home you're going to keep for a while.
Yeah, so, like we refied in 2021, and by the beginning of 2022, we were in this house.
Yeah.
So we weren't even there, but
we still have it.
But we kept it. We still have it till today.
Yeah, and I think we hit our point where we got back what we saved in interest like a couple years or below.
Yeah.
And so a quick example of that, say you're saving $200 a month on an interest from a refi. Say your note went down $200 when you refinanced. And you paid $5,000 for the closing cost. 5,000 divided by 200 gets you 25 months, 25 payments. It's 25 months. So basically 2 years. You'd want to live in that house or have that home right at 25 months or more, because after that 25 months, it would have paid for itself in what you saved in interest payments. So when doing a refi, that's the biggest thing I want to stress to people is just make sure you just kind of, okay, how long are we going to keep this home for a while and be here? And will you pass that point of where you've paid for what you paid in closing costs, because it can be a little pricey sometimes.
Yeah, so. It just doesn't. It comes down to doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
based off of my X year amount of plans.
Mm-hmm. So just take the amount that you saved from the change, and then just see how long that it would take you to get to the amount you paid down for that closing cost, and boom, you refinance. Yep.
Some of y'all refinance, but some of y'all need to rededicate. Okay, but next we are going into recasting. I'm going to try and explain what we did for recasting. I might get it wrong, but we're all learning. So when we moved into this house, so we have our rental house that we lived in when we first got married. We refinanced it. We moved into this house. So we moved into this house. We had 5% down. And when you move into a home and you have less than 20% down, you pay towards what is a PMI.
Which is an extra fee a lender charges you for not having 20% down. It's like an extra safety fee that goes to nothing. It's just paying it to them. Doesn't go towards anything.
It's like if you look at your tuition, you have like gravel fee. It's just nothing.
It's just them.
It's just them
So
wanting
they
more
want to
money.
keep you in PMI as long as they can.
So because we were paying towards that PMI is the reason why for us it made sense to just go ahead and recast as well.
Yeah, because we're early on in our loan, and so we were like, okay, we had to pay a certain chunk towards the loan to get to the amount balance we needed for PMI to be taken off by our loan mortgage, and that's a whole jumping through hoops in itself.
That was a headache itself.
Because, like I said, they want to do everything they can to keep you there because it's just free money to them. I mean, so what we did, and I'll do another episode on this, we did it based off of our current value of our home, not our original purchase price. So our home appreciated in the time we've been here. We were able to use that new amount that we could sell at, and they take a 25% instead of 20. And so we wanted to pay down enough to get to that 25% to where they would chunk off PMI. So that'll probably be a quick little episode another time. It's a great way to, if you are doing 5% down, make you realize how you could get PMI chunked off through that, home renovations, different things like that will increase the value of your home. And so what we were doing, we were trying to move quickly out of our last home to get a good interest rate for this current home we live in, was kind of why we were quick in doing it. So, and that's why we only did 5% down. We didn't have as much time as we would have liked to do 20%. So I will advise to most people, it's good if you can do 20. I know that's hard right now, easier said than done. They have great deals for 5% ones as well. And there's nothing wrong with that. We've done it. I've done that route twice. And so, but I would advise, if you can, 20% is always good because you, like Lex said, you avoid that PMI payment. And that's going to be $6 to $10,000 over that time before you finally catch up and get it. So it's a lot. It's a lot of wasted money just because you didn't put enough down.
Mortgage recasting allows you to pay a lump sum towards your mortgage in order to reduce your remaining monthly payments and interest. When you recast your mortgage, you'll keep the same interest rate and term.
That's important to note.
That's where a lot of people, I mean, just for the small amount of time that I've had a little bit of knowledge of this whole subject, but a lot of people think that recasting, you're also going to be refinancing.
Yeah,
they don't have to happen at the same time.
Correct. Yeah. They a lot of people, when I was bringing this up to a few people I was talking to, they thought
they're like, "Oh, I don't want to lose my interest rate."
Yeah, and you won't. It keeps that intact. Only a refi changes your interest rate. Recasting keeps the terms you have always had and just projects them over or your current value you owe on the home. So it won't change either of those two things. And another pro is it's a lot it's simpler and cheaper than a refi. It costed us $250 fee for them to do it, but
a lot of patience.
Yeah. So we had the fee, and then they also required that you put $10,000 down or more, because they don't want people just doing these like all the time. And so obviously, and also you want to put a chunk down because that makes it worth even doing. So a lot of banks, some will do it for free, no fee, but usually they'll do like $100 to $250 fee, and a lot of them, from what I've seen and researched, require at least $10,000 towards your principal payment. So that's money going towards your home's principal. It's not money you're paying them. It's going toward the house. Say you had a $250, they want you to pay to $10,000 to get you to $240 owed on the house, as well as a fee of $250 that goes to them.
Okay.
The $10,000 or more is going towards your home. They just do that because they don't want you putting like $1,000 down. Hey, I want to recast. Like it just helps not have it happen so often.
Yeah.
And makes it more worth it for them and for the person. But overall, the biggest pro is it is cheaper and easier. So say a good time to utilize this is if interest rates don't look like they're going down and you want another way to try to get your mortgage rate a little lower.
Yeah.
Say you're getting a point of life where you're like, okay, this mortgage payment's a little too high. It's at $2,000. Let's try to get it down to $1,700. Can we? We've been in this house for 5 years and paid down this mortgage. Can we recast off the amount we owe now, kind of thing? So
how much did we save monthly by doing this?
we saved only 70 on that, but we saved 70 from the PMI deletion. That's the only reason I did them both. Normally, I wouldn't do a recast unless you could save 100 or more, really. But for us, it was a combined 150 roughly between the PMI deletion and the recast.
So over time,
we save 150 each payment.
Okay.
Each payment is less. It doesn't. It takes away you paying your mortgage off earlier. But the way that you still do that is, say we lowered ours $200. Say you go from $1,900 and you lower yours to $1,700 after the recast. It gives you the option to pay just $1,700, but keep paying that $1,900 if you can.
Yeah.
And you pay your home off quicker. It's the same as
Uno reverse.
It'd be the same as if you never recasted, but it still gives you the comfort of, I could pay less if something happens in your life. It gives you a little freedom to be like, okay,
some cushion.
Yeah, you have the option to pay less. And, it's always best to pay more, but it gives you either or option. And so one of the biggest, going off the final con to a recast, can eliminate paying off the mortgage early because it's based on your original loan and date. So say you've been in your home for 5 years and you've also chunked extra. This is people who's paid extra towards the mortgage, and your end date has become, say you were going to finish your mortgage, you got your mortgage in 2000, and your mortgage was going to be done in 2030, 30-year mortgage. Well, when you pay more towards the principal, you chunk off years. So say now your mortgage is done in 2027 because you paid extra. When you recast, they're going to that original terms you had on your year, your end date. You're keeping your original term as well as your interest rate. So they're going to recast it to 2030. So it's good. You're going to be back at that 30 years. So if your goal is to pay your home off quick, or if you've been in the home for a long time and it's like you feel like you don't want it to be, if you've ever at any point paid more to try to get your mortgage term lower, you don't want to recast because it kind of erases that. You could still do it. It goes back and you pay more each month and catch up, but it's just not more. It's not ideal in that situation. So I wanted to make that very clear to people. It's all situational. It can be good, and sometimes it could be a little more detrimental, just depending on your goals. Another thing, real quick, a lot of people use recasting when they buy a home and haven't sold their previous home yet. They buy the home, get a mortgage. Once the home's sold, they put whatever equity they got from the sale of the house into the new home, recast it off that. That makes sense. Because they weren't able to sell before. So that's another thing for people. If you're buying, if you do have to end up some situation where you have to buy before you could sell your previous home, you can recast the loan on new terms from the equity you just got from the sale. So you bought the home, locked in that interest rate, whatever. Month later, you sold your previous home, put all that equity down on it, recast it, and then that's your mortgage. A lot of people do that because it's like, okay, the mortgage has only been a month or 3 months, and so it changes it completely.
It's all situational. It's all tailored to your personal phase of life, wherever you're at, whether it's recasting or refinancing. I was sitting here thinking, some people may think, this is more like cheating the system. This is in a way that it's not. First of all, this is your home.
Yeah.
You've got, and the main thing is you just have to, just like everything, you have to steward it well.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised with a little bit of reading and a little bit of research. There are very few situations in life where you are just going to be stuck with no way out.
Yeah.
I mean, that's, with addiction, with your family, with your faith, your spiritual walk. I mean, there are so many avenues. You don't, in anything, you do not have to feel stuck. And I could only imagine, one of the worst feelings is the place that you're supposed to feel the most safe and have joy and have peace and have your family and just supposed to be just such a safe and joy-filled environment. You do not want to come home to that burden. You don't want your house to feel like this big, heavy weight on your chest that you feel like you're stuck because, again, after research, after learning, we're not a huge podcast platform, but even just listening to people who has walked through our options, we've weighed out the options and we've done what's best for us. You're not stuck, so don't ever feel stuck in anything.
Oh yeah. Just a quick recap. Remember, just do the best you can to put 20% down if you can, but 5% is doable. 20% will help you avoid PMI, the extra payment you'll pay for probably about five years is usually kind of how long you pay that. But just try to make sure you can afford the home first, and that's easier said than done right now, but make sure you're in a good financial spot. So you want it to be a blessing. And then remember to, these recasts and refis are good options to help you.
And always, before you move in, whether you're building or whether you're buying an already built home, always just bless your home. Before you move in, give it to the Lord. Be good stewards of what you have. Even though your name might be on the mortgage and this is your house and you own it, it is really not yours. At the end of the day, it's the Lord's. When we built this house, we had our family come in and write scriptures on what we call the studs on the frame. And I feel like that's just the main reason why our house has just been such a blessing to us. And it's never once felt like we've been house broke or, no matter the circumstances.
Steward what you have with little, and God can trust you with more, which we've gone over in this podcast before. Once he sees what you do with a little, he's entrusted you to, he can entrust you with more. So just keep, we know it's hard out there with inflation and everything. Just keep saving, keep doing the best you can right now with how it is. Keep hoping and praying that the right things happen and right people take office that can get our economy thriving again. Because right now, the past 4 years, it has not been in any way, shape, or form. All you can really do is know God's in control, no matter who's elected. Anyway, we hope this helped you, it blesses you, and makes, your pathway to being a homeowner easier.
Yeah, and if y'all ever have any questions, most of you who watch our videos are close friends and family, but even if you don't know us, you can always reach out to us on social media, or if you have our phone numbers. Kendall is always more than happy to help people with financial questions and topics like this.
Yeah, for
if
sure.
you ask me, I'll just probably send you to Kendall anyway. So.
But you've learned a lot.
Yeah.
But I'm always happy to help. It's kind of where my heart is with that. And so, any questions, comment on this, shoot me a text message if you have my phone number or whatever. I'm always happy to help. That's our goal here is to obviously first and foremost bring the word of God to anyone listening, and then show, real life situations on what people go through with money and different things like that. If this blessed you, please remember to bless others, like, share, get the word out on anything you think it would help other people with house buying. Keep renting right now if you have to, and just stock up that money and get your first home.
Start praying and thanking God for the home that he is already going to bless you with.
Yeah. Yes.
There's a reason for every season. It's very cheesy, but
reason for the season.
Reason for the season. I'm ready for Christmas.
It's getting a little. We're in fall now, so
we're in the burr months.
There you go.
All right. Well, this concludes today's episode, and we will see you next time.
Thank y'all.